Given the recent competition from Universal Studios, the stock price underwhelming for the past 3 to 4 years, and increased scrutiny on the parks itself, Disney had a lot of pressure at D23 to present some new things that would be coming to the parks. And much of it, even if Disney doesn't want to admit it, is looked at as a rebuttal to Epic Universe and what Universal Studios is doing and opening their brand new park in less than a year. Well, they had their D23 event last night, and they did have some announcements, actually quite a bit more than I thought they would. And you could have had a sense of deja vu because a lot of the things that they announced were things that kind of were around or being rumored about even 10 years ago. But in this video, we're going to talk about the things that are coming to Disneyland and Disney World, give some thoughts of potentially when you could see these things in the parks, if they will actually come to fruition as they were presented, and does it compete with Epic Universe? I think that's the biggest question people have, is obviously, especially when you're talking about Disney World, does any of the stuff that they announced move the needle when it comes to competing with Epic Universe and that potential impact it will have on Disney World? So we're going to dig into all this. So hi, I'm Jared with Capture the Magic. Now, we were promised, and in this presentation, Josh Giamaro, who is the head of the parks division of Walt Disney Company, had said this is not blue sky, that this is shovels and dirt, and this stuff is all confirmed and going to happen. I suppose on some level, you could say this is not blue sky, but a lot of the things that they announced didn't have definitive timelines. And I'm not saying it's blue sky, but I'm also not saying it's not like work is going to get underway right away on a lot of this stuff. So I think they definitely wanted to give the impression that this stuff was confirmed going to happen, and this was not blue sky, given I think the flack they got after the last few D23s where it was blue sky and there was no concrete thing. So they definitely wanted to relay that a lot. But you'll notice in a lot of things we go over that it's not really heavy on details or opening timelines or when it's going to begin construction. So I suppose it depends on your definition of blue sky, but from their words, this is all confirmed going to happen. So I suppose you can, rest knowing that. And we'll start with Disneyland. So on the Disneyland side, they did announce that Pandora is coming to California Adventure. This isn't a big surprise, given that Iger sort of let this slip a couple of months ago, and this has kind of been known, but they did announce that. Now, it doesn't look like a copycat from Animal Kingdom, so I don't know if that's good or bad, but it looks like an original-looking land here. It said the land will feature an all-new attraction that will take place on a grand scale. Guests will go on the adventure of a lifetime in search of majestic natural wonders that can only be found on Pandora, and the beauty and danger that come along the journey. And this is some concept art here that they showed. Looks like very river, like Navi River right there. So it looks like a boat ride. And I don't know if both of them are boat rides, but at least one of them is a boat ride. But and I didn't have anything about an opening timeline. You'll also notice a lot of these announcements, they are light on details. And I think that's on purpose, because I think after Epcot's overhaul and all the things that they announced and the things that weren't built and the things that were not built how they originally were shown, with lots of cutbacks and, basically Communicore Hall being a community college dining hall. I think that they are now going the route of, we're just going to show a little bit of concept art. We're just going to talk about generalities and really more, I would say, the vibe of things and not as much into details, because they probably, which is understandable on some level, that things do change along the way. But they also, I don't think that, I think if things get cut back, they don't want to get the bad press that they've gotten about how things got cut back for, say, like Epcot and some of the lands in the past that they've done. They also got an announcement for a Coco boat ride that is coming to Disney's California Adventure. Now, you may think, oh, that would fit in Epcot, and it would, but it's going to Disneyland, which I suppose in their defense, Epcot, I don't really think the Mexico Pavilion could handle the crowds in that pavilion if they replaced the Donald Duck boat ride there with Coco. I've said that for a long time. They would have to basically redo that entire area. I just don't think they want to do that, because you would have massive crowds coming in for this ride. But they did announce this one. They said the attraction will be filled with characters and music. Said you'll know from Coco. This is the first ever Coco ride in the parks. Walt Disney Imagineering will draw inspiration for the attraction from beloved classics like Haunted Mansion and Pirates of the Caribbean. We're bringing our skeletal cast of characters to life in a big way through the latest audio animatronics technology, Josh told the crowd. These figures will appear in ways you'll have to see to believe. And again, there was no timeline of when this will open. They also announced that there's going to be a Walt Disney audio animatronic that was announced. So it says, for the first time ever, when it debuts in 2025, so this one's coming next year, you'll actually be able to see Walt Disney through the magic of audio animatronics technology. And it says, in Walt Disney, a magical life. It says it's being created for this very special experience. It says, quote, I speak for our entire team when I say that there's so much pride and excitement for everyone involved in this endeavor. It says Walt Disney Magical Life will debut inside the Main Street Opera House, and after its initial run, the attraction will play in rotation with great moments with Mr. Lincoln, a fitting acknowledgement of Walt's significant advances with audio animatronics about 60 years ago when he first introduced the groundbreaking technology. So that one is actually happening pretty quick. I mean, I always like seeing Walt in the parks because I feel like Disney as a whole for a long time kind of has wanted to get away from Walt. And I think they maybe learned that the fan base doesn't want that, as long as it's done in the spirit of Walt himself and not using an animatronic of Walt to, I guess, say things that Walt wouldn't have said, I suppose is a good way to put that. And then they did have an announcement about, which wasn't a huge shock because everyone knew about the King Thanos ride, which they had teased at D23 before. Got some more details on that, and that ride is going to be called Avengers Infinity Defense. But they also revealed that there's another ride coming to Avengers Campus in Disneyland called Stark Flight Lab. So here's some concept art here, and I think the shock there was that there's 2 different rides going in this area. It says, get ready for a multi-world adventure experience with Avengers Infinity Defense. So technology that allows the Avengers to jump between worlds has gone missing, and King Thanos is using it to wreak havoc everywhere. Recruits will travel to iconic locations like Asgard, Wakanda, and New York City alongside the likes of big and small heroes. You also just might find yourself face-to-face with King Thanos, too. So this ride is called Avengers Infinity Defense. And then I think the surprise, and they got a little teaser video of it's basically showing, if you've seen Endgame, it's that whole technology idea, how they did that, which I had my thoughts about how Endgame was, but, for a ride, like, okay, that's the concept for it. And there's King Thanos there. And then they also said, if you're up for another mission, Tony Stark has one for you. And Tony, he always wants to try something new and exciting, and it's going to make you feel like a superhero yourself with the just announced Stark Flight Lab. You're going to sit in 2-person pods and deploy to a test station. Then a robot arm grabs your pod and starts whirling you around a simulated flight. So if you look at this is a KUKA arm-based ride, which this is basically it's the same ride system as Forbidden Journey over at Universal Studios. Now, those are 4 people per thing. This one is 2. So it's the same ride tech, I imagine, and showed, like, again, I think it's supposed to simulate you flying around like Iron Man. So potentially that is, now if you have motion sickness, you're probably not going to like that ride, but that ride is also what's announced coming. And they said that Robert Downey Jr. will actually be a part of this ride, and they did have a picture of him with Bob Iger riding one of these test vehicles. So that is cool over there. Now, they didn't, as far as I know, they don't have anything on Blog Mickey here that any dates were announced or opening dates for this. So, but they did have more details, like a lot of concept art for this and actual stuff. So I think this is one that will probably happen pretty soon over Disneyland. So there is that. And that's basically it for Disneyland. All right, let's move on to Disney World. And there were actually a lot of announcements for Disney World, which on one hand, I was sort of basically expecting, given, Epic Universe is right around the corner. And even though Bob Iger is going to claim that they've known about Epic Universe forever and it's not competition, obviously this presentation would prove otherwise, as they very much, I think, get the impression that they are being pushed by Universal quite a bit. And some of these announcements, I think, are indicative of that, you could say. But we're going to go through all these here. So first one is they are getting, which we talked about many times and figured that this was one of the ways that they're going to combat Epic Universe in the short term, because they don't have anything else really, is a new nighttime parade. So an all-new nighttime parade is coming to Magic Kingdom in summer of 2025. The new parade, titled Disney Starlight, will use the latest technology to bring Disney stories to life after the sun sets. It says Disney Starlight will continue the nighttime spectacular legacy by the Main Street Electrical Parade, using the latest technology to show stories about how the characters to tell new stories about the characters you love. All of this brought to life by the magic of the Blue Fairy, in addition to beloved characters from Walt Disney Animation Studios films, Peter Pan, Encanto, Frozen, and more. So this one, I mean, people have been asking for a nighttime parade at Disney World forever. So the fact that they finally did it, I suppose that's a good thing. And again, we had talked about before, basically Disney's plan, next summer with Epic Universe being out there, is they were just going to do parades and shows, and which is what they did when the Wizarding World first opened. So I suppose in the short term, they can't construct anything, new rides, anything quick enough to combat it. So that is one thing they're going to do, which I think the fan base will enjoy. People, again, have been asking for a nighttime parade outside of, Halloween and Christmas parties for a very long time. So I think this will go over well with the fan base. Now, in terms of moving the needle from Epic Universe, but I don't think it's going to pull people away from Epic Universe next summer. Next time, which isn't surprising, Indiana Jones ride at Disney's Animal Kingdom, which again, this has been talked about numerous times over D23. So it says, heading over to Disney's Animal Kingdom, we make our way to Dinoland USA section of the park will be reimagined into a tropical Americas themed land. One of the IPs that will be featured in the land is an Indiana Jones themed attraction. It says, replacing Dinosaur, the unnamed Indiana Jones ride will take guests into a perfectly preserved Maya temple. Of course, perfectly preserved can only mean one thing to Indiana Jones. It's time to explore. Indy has heard rumors about a mythical creature deep within the jungle, and he's got to see for himself, and we're happy to tag along. So they did release some more concept art. Disney says that this Indiana Jones ride, it will be an all-new adventure, that it will therefore be different than any other Indiana Jones ride in the world. The ride appears to be reusing the dinosaur attraction vehicle, and the layout of the ride is expected to stay the same, but Disney didn't confirm those details. Construction on the Dinoland USA reimagining project is set to begin this fall. The Disney says that the work will be carried out in phases and that guests will have plenty of time to ride Dinosaur before it needs to close. That said, the entire land will be completed and opened in 2027. So if they're beginning work on it this fall, which we knew this was happening, that it was, they were going to do this with permits and all this other stuff. 2027 would mean by the time they construct, you're talking, now they didn't say when in 27, probably late in 27, that would be 3 years. That'd be moving pretty quick for Disney, so we'll have to see. But 3-year timeline is what we're giving for the Indiana Jones ride. And in the same park, they also announced Encanto coming to Disney's Animal Kingdom. And it said the second IP for the Tropical Americas project is Encanto. It says this attraction construction will occur in phases and begin this fall, just like Indiana Jones. They're likely referring to the Encanto attraction being the first piece of the puzzle. And it says the entire land is scheduled to open in 2027. So it looks like Indiana Jones and the Encanto area are all going to open at the same time in 2027. So 3 years. Now we'll have to, 3 years for all this. We'll have to wait and see. But that's what they said last night. The attraction is set on the day after Antonio receives his magical gift, the ability to communicate with animals. The ride will take guests into the magical casita, which will come alive in front of our eyes. According to Vaughn, the whole house will feel alive, just like in the film. It looks like guests will be riding along in various pieces of furniture, which Casita has brought to life to allow us to tour the house. Ultimately, we'll end up in Antonio's room, which is the rainforest scene pictured below in the concept art released by Disney. Some of this stuff, again, we're talking like Animal Kingdom has a very unique vibe. I suppose fitting it in with Antonio, and he has the animal abilities, like that does tie it into Animal Kingdom. So that's, okay. Like it's a little shoehorned in my opinion, but they can put that in there. Indiana Jones, I've said for a while, like I love Indiana Jones, but I don't think it belongs to Animal Kingdom. But again, he is an archaeologist. And I suppose at the end of the day, you do need more things to do in Animal Kingdom. And given Disney at this point is going to do everything based on an IP, this does alleviate a problem with Animal Kingdom of not having a lot of things to do. So this will, add attractions and interest in Animal Kingdom beyond ideally being a half-day park. Personally speaking, I don't know if Encanto is a big enough IP to really pull people in. I think it's probably a lot of it a draw for people, South America and tourists to come in, which, I think is a lot of this probably is international draw. But those are the things that'll probably be the soonest showing up at Disney World, would be over here in Animal Kingdom. They also announced at Animal Kingdom a third attraction planned for the Tropical Americas land is a family carousel created by the town's woodcarver, featuring some of his favorite animals from Disney stories. So they didn't really have any details on this. They had this concept art here, which will be compared to what they're doing in Epic Universe with their Constellation Carousel, which from this concept art, this looks like a pretty basic carousel. And when you look what Epic Universe is doing with their carousel, that looks much more, that is going to go 7 feet in the air or higher. It's supposed to have a lot of really cool, like moving floor aspects to it and everything like that. So I think inevitably these two carousels will be judged. Carousels are a simple ride, but I think given the fact that Universal is doing I guess you could almost just call it like a futuristic sci-fi-ish carousel. And then if this is just a pretty basic carousel, they're going to be judged, back to back each other. Like they also announced a Hacienda quick service restaurant coming to the land. It says will serve regional food and is likely going to take over the space where Restaurantosaurus currently is, which probably is a good thing because Restaurantosaurus is not very good. They also announced for Animal Kingdom the Zootopia Better Together Tree of Life show, which we've known this was coming as well. They announced this at the last D23. So the new Tree of Life show based on Zootopia has received a name and opening season. The show, which will replace It's Tough to Be a Bug, is called Zootopia Better Together and will open in winter of 2025. Animal Kingdom. A closing date for Tough to Be a Bug has not been announced at this time. I think Zootopia as an IP fits. I mean, it's obviously animals, so it's probably the one that fits the most in Animal Kingdom. I kind of figured they would probably do more than just a show here, given of again, that's so animal based. But I don't think Zootopia is a big enough IP to really have its own land. I know it does overseas, but I don't think domestically it's quite as popular, especially over like China. But that's it for Animal Kingdom. All right, now moving on to Epcot. There wasn't much at Epcot, but they did have a new Spaceship Earth lounge, which was interesting. It says a grand and miraculous lounge has been announced for Spaceship Earth, which has been the iconic centerpiece attraction for Epcot more than 40 years. This just announced lounge is inspired by the stories, shapes, and inducing legacy of the timeless icon. This is where there's a Siemens lounge in Spaceship Earth. It's there now, so they're just going to retheme this lounge. And looking at the concept art here, it just kind of looks basic. I mean, it'll be interesting. Maybe has some. Looks like here you're going to be able to see the fireworks. That looks like you're looking over the gardens area. You'll be able to see the fireworks there. So, I mean, I'm not against more lounges per se, but we'll have to wait and see what this one looks like. But it looks pretty basic. I mean, these look like Spaceship Earth, like chandeliers in here. But from the concept art, it just sort of just looks like a kind of a normal bar lounge. We'll see what else they do with it. But they did say this would open in 2025. And given this already exists, there's not a lot of work here to do. They just have to retheme the whole thing. So that is one thing. That's the only thing they announced that was coming to Epcot was this lounge. So I suppose there's a little bit more stuff other than they talked about Test Track 3.0, which we've already known about as well. They also gave an update on the Pirates of the Caribbean Tavern in Magic Kingdom, which they had previously discussed. It says set course for the Magic Kingdom, first announced at Destination D23 last year. This rambunctious watering hole will offer a welcoming haven for all pirate kind, big and small, and everyone in between. Here, bandits and buccaneers to be from every corner of the seven seas are welcome to join together and raise a toast to the pirate life. In the newly released artwork, says X marks the spot for a seaworthy selection of inside this grogs and grub inside the tavern location coming to Magic Kingdom. It says this will also open in 2025. They didn't give details on where this is going to be. The assumption is Tortuga Tavern over there. I don't know really where else you would put this. I've said many times, I think these themed lounges like this will be a big hit, and I think they can be a fun thing. Now, in terms that this is obviously more of the adult crowd. This is not much for kids. But this will be another place in Magic Kingdom, whether you like it or not, that you can drink alcohol. The concept art looks cool. I'll have to wait and see what it ends up looking like at the end or what the capacity is. But we've known that's coming. But again, lounges basically would be one of the soonest, the soonest things to open at Disney World. So I suppose that's something they can tout about opening soon. They talked about Test Track 3.0. A lot of the stuff we've already seen before, the concept art and things, but they said that it would reopen in 2025. So it's looking to wrap up next year. They didn't say when in 2025, just sometime in 2025. Okay, so the big, I think, announcements are, this was one of them. And there were some ones that were pretty surprising when it came to stuff they were announcing. Not only Magic Kingdom, there's another one as well, but 2 Cars attractions are coming to Magic Kingdom. So heading back over to Magic Kingdom, Disney expanded on plans previously referred to as Beyond Big Thunder Mountain, which they did not use these terms. They didn't say Beyond Big Thunder. The plans have shifted considerably from the first iteration of the idea that included a Coco-themed area and an Encanto-themed area. With those films being represented in other corners of Disney World, plans have shifted to an area with 2 Cars attractions. It's probably important to note that Disney said they are building 2 Cars attractions as part of a reimagined Frontierland at Magic Kingdom. That is, they are not necessarily building a Cars land for Magic Kingdom. Instead, 2 attractions will take guests past Radiator Springs and into the American West. One attraction will invite you on a thrilling rally race through the mountains. Take on wild terrain as you race across the landscape, climbing mountain trails, dodging geysers, and Mater's favorite, splashing through mud holes. It says, but what about smaller cars? The second attraction will be geared toward kids. It will be fun for the whole family. Disney says they will work on this will begin in early 2025. Okay, work on this will begin early 2025. An opening date was not given, but we imagine a 3 to 5 year build is not out of the question and even likely. Yeah, so this isn't a copy. This isn't Radiator Springs. Disney has this thing, and it's one of the complaints I have about stuff they do is instead of just giving you things you know from the movies and shows, they are extending the story. So this is like extending the stories and tying this into Frontierland. Essentially, this is the Radiator Springs ride out at Disneyland. I think it's a race, so it's a similar type of system. It's just going to be themed differently from what I can tell. So on some type of level, Disney World is getting the same type of ride that Disneyland has. It's just themed differently. But again, not a lot of details. Had some concept art. In terms of cars fitting into Frontierland, I don't like that. I don't think automobiles are part of Frontierland. Especially again, everything's going to be an IP thing. Like at this point with Disney, everything's going to be an IP. It just is. But I suppose on one hand, this means that Frontierland is not going away. So I guess that is a win, because the rumor was, and I kind of figured that they were eventually going to do away with Frontierland. It seems as if they're adding this into it, along with like Tiana's and other stuff like that. So I guess on one hand, if you're a fan of Frontierland, you can consider it a win. On the other hand, is it really Frontierland at this point? It's a version of it, but I don't personally think that cars or automobiles belong in Frontierland. But we are getting, cars attractions here, which our son is really into. He likes cars. I'm sure a lot of the boys and the kids will like cars, and it's racing stuff. So I think it'll be a hit for kids. But in terms of theming and being true to like the original concept of Frontierland, I don't think it fits that. But I think we're probably far beyond that at this point. Point time with Disney. They also announced a new Mandalorian and Grogu story for Smugglers Run. Says Disney is finally making good on a promise from what seems like a long time ago. In a galaxy far, far away, Disney has always said they are planning on bringing new missions to Millennium Falcon. And Dave Filoni announced that they will be doing just that. Says when the upcoming Mandalorian Grogu movie blasts off in theaters in 2026, will also touch down at Galaxy's Edge. This is going to be a brand new story featuring Mando and his youngling coming to the Millennium Falcon Smugglers Run. I think that this should be much like Star Tours, where you get perhaps a different scene every time you're in there. I kind of actually wish they would get rid of the piloting thing and just let you just ride along. I think that would be kind of a cool, like a better ride personally. But I think more of this is something they should do, because I think it's easy wins and it gives rewritability to Smugglers Run. So that is something that will probably be coming in 2026 on that timeline. So you got a couple more years on that one before that happens. They also announced for Hollywood Studios, Monsters Inc. Land is coming. Now this one I was actually pretty surprised by. I had heard no rumblings about this whatsoever, outside of, and we'll talk about you heard about this years ago, but in terms of now, I wasn't really expecting it. It says an all new land is coming to Disney's Hollywood Studios based on the Monsters Inc. movies. Picking up after the events of the Pixar's beloved film, humans now have been invited to visit the world of Monsters Inc., and the monsters need laughter to power the city and keep it running smoothly. But it's not a true visit without the factory itself. You'll be able to see the sights, hear the laughs, and zoom through the building, just like James P. Sullivan and Mike Wazowski. And they had Billy Crystal on stage to present this. They had some concept art, like you can see right here, in the city, and here's like the factory, and then also they revealed the door ride is finally coming. So if you've been dreaming of riding through the door vault since the movie was released in 2001, you're not alone. It says you'll go into the factory and experience the first suspended coaster ever in a Disney park. Remember in the movie how those claws grab the doors and hoist them up into the air and take them away? We're doing that, and you're going along for the ride. Disney says the work on Monsters Inc. Land will begin in 2025. An opening date has not been announced, but we can probably expect a 3 to 5 year time build. So the opening is probably near 2030. It's probably the case. Now, if you look here in the concept art, I mean, this looks like a 2-person vehicle, and you're suspended up top. It looks like you're seated with a chest thing going over the top of you. Now, if you remember correctly, this was something that was rumored. Like there were heavy rumors of this probably almost a decade ago, and this Doors ride has been something that people have been asking for, and that has been rumored for a long time as well. So while this actually does fit in Hollywood Studios, in my opinion, I think that Hollywood Studios basically was made for stuff like this. I'm surprised to hear it's coming now, given Monsters Inc. isn't I would say the freshest of IPs to put in there, but this is something people have wanted. So now where this goes, that's up for debate. They didn't really announce where a lot of this stuff was specifically going. So the thinking with where this may go, this could take out the Muppet area over in Hollywood Studios. A lot of people are thinking this could actually go back where Rock and Roller Coaster is, because Aerosmith just recently retired, and the thinking was that could get rethemed or just replaced with this. Either place could work. It's hard to know it really where this is going to go. And if you look at the front of this on this building right here, it almost kind of looks like the front of Launch Bay, but that would be the animation courtyard area. I have a hard time believing it's going to go there just because there's still stuff for little kids there, and I don't think there's enough room. And it's my understanding as well, there's some like employee break room areas back there and stuff like that. So where this is going in Hollywood Studios, we don't know. But like they said in this article, you're probably not going to see this until 2030. Now, there's a lot of people that still say this may not happen. I don't know. I mean, it's what we'll talk about the end here, a lot of this stuff, but I would say the earliest you would see this is 2030. But now the big announcement that came at the very end of the presentation, which I was getting ready to say they missed the biggest potential opportunity they had, and they ended up announcing it, which was they confirmed that Villains Land is coming to Magic Kingdom. So the presentation ended with an announcement that Disney World will receive Disney's first ever villains-themed land and that it will go in Magic Kingdom. Previously announced for the Beyond Big Thunder Mountain project, it's very likely that the Villains Land would end up at the back of the rivers of America and possibly even impact the rivers. Disney has not yet announced details on the location of the land beyond Magic Kingdom Park somewhere. So the new land will encompass all your dreams or nightmares. The space will be home to two major attractions, dining and shopping on an incredibly twisted grand scale. Josh DeMauro says the work is currently underway at Magic Kingdom to bring the Villains Land to life. An opening date was not announced for Villains Land, but we expect it to open sometime in the next 2 to 5 years. I would push that almost 3 to 6. I think I would put this on the same timeline as you might see this by 2030, maybe. But they didn't have any other details. Now, if you look at the concept art, there's some interesting details. I have a hard time looking at this concept art thinking that they're going to build it exactly, again, given Disney's, how they kind of looked at concept art in the past. But it does look like you have maybe Maleficent's castle here, which I think a lot of people talked about. They want to see that. Almost looks like another castle here. You got a dragon. So I don't know if there's a lot of like concept art wise, obviously, especially with Disney, things change, but they did announce it, which I had said all along. I think the biggest potential home run that they have is a Villains Land. So this potentially going into Magic Kingdom, or from their eyes, this is going into Magic Kingdom. This is something that could be a real draw for them. I really do think that's the case. But again, light on details, didn't give any. They said there would be 2 attractions. They didn't say what those attractions would be or anything else like that. But those are all of the announcements for basically Disneyland and Disney World. And I think the question comes into, how does this compare? Does this compete with Epic Universe? My position that I'm taking, having just covered Disney for the time that I have, I am in this. That looks great. I'll judge it when it's done, because again, we've seen a lot of this stuff with Disney over the years, even with New Fantasyland, of concept art shows one thing, budgets get cut, things get changed, and the final product is not quite what was promised, which is why I think they went very light on what they were promising. Essentially, they were showing you concept art and teasing it up and saying the concept of it and the story of it, but not really going into hard details, giving very, this will be done by a year, or we've already started working on this, stuff like that. So they're not giving out like hard construction timelines. So while this wasn't Blue Sky, technically, there wasn't a lot of details with this. I think it's somewhere in the middle between Blue Sky. We're not going to give you all these details. I think they're just trying to like play it safe on that end. In terms of, does this compat Epic Universe? I mean, first off, obviously, they are announcing these things because of Epic Universe. So if you're somebody who is excited about these things, you should be thanking Universal Studios, because this stuff is being done because of them and Epic Universe. So I think first and foremost, this stuff wouldn't be happening if it wasn't for that. Now, in terms of does this combat with Epic Universe, obviously Epic Universe isn't open yet, so it's hard to really know the impact it's going to have. It's looking at it, it seems it's going to have a really huge impact. There's a lot of anticipation for it. We don't have an opening date yet. There's obviously that park is still under construction, but it is looming out there, and obviously Disney is worried about it, or they wouldn't have announced these things. I will say a lot of these announcements were things that we were hearing rumors about even like 10 years ago. Cars stuff, Monsters Inc., Villains Land. This seemed like old concept ideas that they just brought out because they know people have wanted these things. And then they were like, well, it's almost a safe bet and give them that. Now, I'm not saying they won't work now. I think villains are kind of more timeless. You can do a lot of things with that. I think Cars, I don't think it's the most relevant IP, but I still think people enjoy cars, and I think especially boys would enjoy cars quite a bit. So I think that is something that could potentially it could be fun. We talk about Monsters Inc. Again, it's an older IP now. Probably more than likely, given Disney, they'll make sequels of these movies and try to make these IPs more relevant. So that's probably something they will do. But again, these were things that were really rumored a decade ago that we're just now seeing. So it seems like they kind of went back to maybe people have said like great, good ideas never die. I suppose you can make that argument. The Doors ride is one I know people have wanted for a very long time. Um, I think doing Villains Land now versus 10 years ago is interesting because I think undoubtedly it's going to be judged against Dark Universe over at Epic Universe. So I think a lot of people looking at the teaser video for Epic Universe and Dark Universe there, I think a lot of people are really excited about that. So I think Villains Land that they're building will be judged against that. So if it falls short of Epic Universe's version, that's not going to be the best look for them, but it does have potential. I will say a lot of these announcements have potential. I'm though at the point with this, and I just say I will wait to judge it when it's done, and do they deliver on the things that they're going to deliver on? Because at this point, I think it's sort of like a parent telling you that you're going to get a new bike, for Christmas every year, and you never get the bike, or the bike is getting delayed, or it's not quite the bike you wanted. I will wait and see what they look like when they're done. Do budgets get cut? Do they deliver on the visions and the versions that they had? These things are nice to see. These are big, flashy headlines that people are going to get. But I think the things that people have a lot of complaints when it comes to Disney are more the smaller things. Like, for instance, the maintenance of your rides. A lot of people have commented lately on the training cast members. Like, it's not quite the same customer service you used to get. Obviously, things being taken away and the upcharging for things. I think adding more attractions is great, but when you can't maintain your current attractions that you have properly, I'm not expecting them to come out of D23 saying we're going to increase maintenance budgets and people are going to get excited. But I think these are things that need to happen as well with this stuff. If Disney's looking to really turn the ship, right the ship, get people's attitudes about Disney back how they used to be, I think they need to get back to doing the little things well, which would be, maintaining your rides and even opening a new ride that doesn't have issues, i.e. Tiana's Bayou Adventure. Um, you know, Getting it built is one thing. Does it work properly? And I think these are things that people have questions about when it comes to Disney now that you didn't used to. So again, it's not that you can't be excited, but I do think a lot of people, even if you are excited, are sort of just looking at it going, okay, well, we'll see. Like, when it opens, does it run? Does it, is it the stuff you said you were going to do? So there's a lot of questions. They are obviously reacting to Epic Universe and what Universal is doing. And the other thing you got to think about too is Universal they are already setting up expansion paths in Epic Universe. So it's very likely, again, Disney's giving Universal 5 years or so, maybe even longer on a lot of this stuff for it to have the impact it's going to have and whatever pull they're going to have to Epic Universe and Universal Studios away from Disney World. But the other thing you got to think too is Universal is not stopping, and they're probably going to announce expansion paths to a lot of these lands they are currently working on right now in Epic Universe. So by the time this stuff is completed by Disney, Universal may also have one or two more expansion pad lands built in Epic Universe. So while Disney is reacting to this current stuff that Universal is building, they may have to react to the new stuff that they're going to be building before they even get this stuff done. Don't forget, they brought out Dick Van Dyke a couple of years ago to announce the Mary Poppins attraction and hype that up. That never happened. So I don't think Disney, I'm not going to say they wouldn't do that, but hopefully they've learned their lesson of not announcing things and then not doing them. So hopefully all the things that they announced do get built. But I totally understand, and myself included, a little bit of a raised eyebrow thinking, we'll see. Like, especially like Monsters Inc. land and stuff like that. Like, when these things don't have hard details at this point, it makes me just think like, well, we'll see. That's going to be it for this video, though. If you like this video, please like it and subscribe to the channel, as we have lots of information here about Disney World, Epic Universe, Universal Studios, and pop culture news. And let us know in the comments what you think. Do you think this was enough announcements to combat with Epic Universe, or do you think these were a letdown and it's not going to make much of an impact? And until next time, we will see you in the parks.